Hello everybody. So I was asked to make a video on how to make pie charts and column charts in Google Sheets. And I'm going to show you guys how to make these types of column charts using the data that we have in our lab experiment this week. Now the charts that you see in front of you right now have been made with just random data that I made up, but I'm going to show you guys with the actual data. So let's start with a column chart. I'm going to make a column chart like this where we have each column representing an age range here. So we have our different age ranges and the number of participants in or the percentage of participants in each range being how tall each column is. So let's start with a column chart. Now a column chart comes down to just being able to count. We need to count up how many people are in each particular group. So I'm going to do the column chart for armpit temperatures. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to want to sort out our data. And sorting our data just makes counting a ton easier. And I'm going to start by sorting out by our age range. So I'm going to sort out all of our columns. I'm going to go data. I'm going to sort range by age. Sort. Now you have to be careful here because it does 0 to 2 and then jumps 11 to 16. And that's because that 3 to 10 age range is going to be down here after 20s because it sees that 2 and it says 3 comes after 2. It doesn't take into account that it's a 23. So you just have to be careful about that. I have all of our age ranges listed here. And now all we need to do is count up, okay, how many people had their temperature taken in armpit that were 0 to 2. And we can look at all of our 0 to 2 data and count all of the armpit temperature taken method that we had here, which was just this one. So we can manually count up. We can scroll down to 3 to 10, and we can manually count up that as well. But when we get down here, it becomes a little bit more difficult because now our armpits are kind of scattered around here, right? We have what looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. But it might make it easier now if we select all our data. And now that it's sorted out by age, if we sort it out by type, we're now sorted out by first and foremost what type of temperature was taken, which is armpit being first. And how many in each age range. We have it secondarily sorted by age range because we sorted it by age first. And we scroll down and we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. We can continue with this method. How many 11 to 16 and looks about 12-ish. And we can go on and do it manually. So this is the most basic way to do this. We could get a little bit more difficult, so we could get medium difficulty using a function called count. So if we use a function in Google Sheets called count, we can press =, count, and you'll see it pop up right here. We can click on it, we can learn more about how this works, but essentially what it'll do is it'll count every numerical value in our sheets. Here's the problem though, Google Sheets doesn't see this 0 to 2 as being a numerical value, so we can't actually use count. Instead we have to use count A. So we need to be very careful that we use count A. And we can just select all of the 0 to 2 range. We can do the same thing, count A for the 11 to 16. We're just going to select all of our 11 up. Sorry, that's supposed to be 3 to 10, so we're just going to come down here. Select all of our 3 to 10. Equals count A. Select 11 to 16. And we can do this for all of our age ranges. And there's a more difficult, I'm going to put count A here just to be specific. And there's a more difficult way to do it, but if you're familiar with computer programming at all, this might actually make the most sense to you. We can use something called COUNTIF. So COUNTIF will count all of the values in a range given that that value meets some sort of criterion. So we're going to select our range of data, and we're actually going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to select all of our data for our armpit measurements. So every one of our participants that took their measurement by armpit, we're going to select their age range. And we're going to go back and we're going to edit this by putting a $sign between the E and the letter for these ranges. And I'll explain why we're going to do that in a second. Now we're going to put comma. We're going to select the criterion. So we're going to say that if whatever's in this column E is equal to whatever's in H, column H, row 2, then we're going to count it up. So it's going to look at what is in this column and how many of those things are equal to what's right here in this cell. And you press enter and it counts up one thing. Now if we drag this down, it'll count out the next row because it'll just change this H2 to an H3. So it'll now look in this column for all of the things that are equal to this H3. Now the reason why we put a $sign here in front of the 2 and the 92 is because that $sign says when we drag it down, we're not going to change these values. So it's going to look at the same range as we drag down this value. So if you look at all of these, it's changing the H2. It's changing the H2 to H6, 7, 8, 9. But all of these E2 to E92 is going to be the same for every one of these. And that corresponds to what range we're looking at. So if you're familiar with computer programming, this COUNTIF probably makes the most sense to you. And I'm just going to continue and fill out the rest of these by hand. Because now we have all of our data. We have how many people were in each of these age ranges that took their temperature by armpit. And we're going to select all of these. We're going to go to insert chart. And this will create a chart for us, and it assumes we want a column chart, which is what we want, but if that's not what pops up, you can always come over here and look for column chart. So we have column chart. It says basic versus armpit. That's obviously wrong. We want just armpit. We label our axes, so this is number of participants in each age range. And then we have the ages. Now, this particular column chart might be a little misleading. We might see this and say, okay, most the age group 17 to 22 mostly preferred an armpit measurement from all the others, but that's just because 17 to 22 is the most commonly measured participant in this particular experiment. So this doesn't tell you the whole data. You might want to instead consider making this a percentage of total participants in each age range. But this is how you basically make a column chart, and it all just comes down to your ability to count. Okay, so that is our column chart, and I'm going to go ahead and put this off to the side. Why is my computer so slow? Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and make a pie chart, which is what you see here. So it'll break down for each age range how many percent of each age range prefer to have their temperature taken in what fashion. So to create a pie chart like this, it again just comes down to our ability to count. And now we're looking for each age range, so I'm going to select and resort our data, and I'm going to resort it again by age. So if we sort by age, now we have our data showing, okay, this is all of our 0 to 2. So this is going to be all of the data that we find in our 0 to 2 range. And actually, I'm going to switch this to 11 to 16 because there's not a lot in that 0 to 2 range. So we have 11 to 16-year-olds. and how many in each of these different types of measurement where the 11 to 16-year-olds use. So we're going to count these again, and we're going to look at this age range, and we're going to count how many people wanted their temperature taken by armpit, ear, forehead, or oral. So armpit, ear, forehead, and oral. We can use count A again, and we can just select all of the places where we see armpit. We can select all of the places where we see ear. We can select all of the places that we see forehead. And we can select all of the places that didn't work. You have to use count A. I didn't use count A, I used just regular count. And we want to select all of the places where we see oral. And once we have all of our measurements, we can select them all. We can go insert chart. It's probably going to assume, well, it was assumed we wanted a column chart. We actually want a pie chart. And it'll give us a nice pie chart like this. We'll probably want to add some sort of title, such as 11 to 16-year-old. And this gives us our pie chart showing that, okay, 37.5% of these people wanted it taken by forehead, 32 oral, armpit, and ear. So this is how you make a pie chart. Pretty easy. Again, it all comes down to just your ability to count out these different values. Whether you do it by hand, just counting it physically, 1, 2, 3. Whether you want to use a function like count A, or if you want to go a little bit more advanced, and if you get comfortable with it, it'd be a little bit more quick to use count if. So that's it for this video. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.